Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Spaceman Days 2022. Today I'm doing a woodland wildlife tour of Leeds Castle. See you in a bit. So, woodland wildlife. At Leeds Castle, it's mainly small birds and squirrels, the odd other bigger bird of prey, fox, etc. But as a general rule, birds and squirrels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the woodlands, show the kind of areas that I actually walk about, and talk about the difference between walking around with your camera and sitting in a hide. Okay, top tip number 1. When you're out in a woodland setting, do a bit of research in where the birds you want to take pictures of might actually live, what sort of trees they like. For instance, the goldcrests that live in and around Leeds Castle, they tend to be in the coniferous trees. A coniferous tree is essentially a tree with a cone, like a pine tree. So if you're someone who wants to take pictures of firecrest, for instance, want a really beautiful bird, then look out for pine trees. The problem with them is that they're not the tree, the bird is small, sometimes quite high up, darts about, so not that easy to get. So you need to get your settings right to get a good picture of it. But that's my first tip. Do a bit of research before you come out. Make sure you know what sort of birds live in what sort of trees before you start strolling about. Top tip number 2. So once you've found your tree that you want to try and find your bird in, make sure you look in the cracks. Like this footage here, you'll see just a minute ago I found that there was a load of blue tits nesting in the crack. So take your time and you might be rewarded with some action. All of that sounded very dodgy. Okay, tip number 3, moving on from tits, cracks and getting action. Top tip number 3 is make sure you look out for things like robins. Now, robins are seemingly everywhere, and if you, like me, and you take photos in parks and forests and woodland for bird life, you'll find that robins seem to be everywhere and people ignore them. But they are very good for being the perfect model. So they tend to stick around longer, they tend to let you get closer. And what that means is you can practice. You can practice your manual settings on your camera, you can practice your composition, and then ultimately, if you can get a really good shot, it means you can practice your editing post photo shoot. So don't ignore the robins, they can be your best friend. Top tip number 4, tread lightly. I just accidentally trod on the biggest branch, it broke, looked up, and scared off both a buzzard and a woodpecker on the same tree, which I think probably brings me to top tip number 5. Don't give up or get disheartened. That would have been pretty amazing, but what can I do about it? So tread lightly and hope for a little bit of luck, which I didn't have. Top tip number 6. If you find that a bird is on a path or on a post or on a branch and it moves, just wait. There's a good chance it will come back, to be honest. It knows the area, probably knows it quite well. Like this dunnock here that you can see, I saw him darting about here and there and noticed where he was, so I just stood still, waited with the camera, and he came back. So he or she came back. So yeah, be patient, and if you see a bird sitting around in a certain spot, just wait. It's there for a reason, it'll probably come back. So, the difference between walking around with a camera and sitting in a hide. Well, they have their merits, obviously. Sitting in a hide, if you are in an area where you know birds are going to land or you've got a good idea, then you might get a really good shot. The problem is you're static. The nice thing about woodland photography is you're enjoying it. You know, one of the biggest things I think people sometimes forget with photography is actually to enjoy it rather than just posting for Instagram. So walking around with your camera is actually really just a nice thing to do. And in woodland, it means that you are more likely to see lots of different species of bird and other types of animals rather than sitting in a hide. Doesn't mean you don't need to be patient. You know, you also might need to stand still, wait for something to come to you. If you see something perched, or you see a track, then if you just wait patiently, it will probably come to you. As long as you're not disturbing it, you're not making too much noise, you're not moving too much, you don't actually need a hide to capture lovely shots of small bird life particularly. So they have their merits, but for woodland photography and what I'm doing today and some of the tips I'm going to show you, I would say that walking around with your camera, being slow, being quiet, will give you some really great results. Top tip number 7, use your ears. Before you come out, why not do a bit of research in what some of the bird calls, bird sounds are in your local area, in the UK or the rest of the world, wherever you're from. As you can probably hear around me, there's lots of bird noise. And actually you can download quite a few apps that will identify these birds, and if you're looking for a particular type of bird, you might find that the bird app will identify it for you and you can find it. So make sure you use your ears, try and learn the different species and what they sound like. It will make finding your perfect shot a little bit easier. My final top tip, actually probably 2 top tips: always look up. Lovely bird of prey, just saw, share a picture of it here, I think it's a buzzard. Just walking from one bit of woodland to the next, flew overhead, managed to get a shot, which is great. And I suppose the final thing to say is just enjoy what you do. Like I said, I think earlier, don't do it for Instagram. Obviously share your pictures, is one of the nice things about it, but enjoy it. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time. Bye.